Cat, it's Maximus here, this time with a review of the Pittsburgh plastic hand riveter. This is a Taiwanese made unit, number 97757. And you can use a coupon with this, and it's about 15 bucks on the shelf, and it's actually a excellent deal. These things can go for as much as, I've seen them for 50 bucks or more. Mac Tools has one. It's the RG75 Quick Set Riveter. I've seen some close-ups. Theirs is also Taiwanese made, and it is literally the exact same unit. So this is kind of surprising. This is a rare find. I obviously have seen this many times. They've sold this tool for several years, and just can't believe I missed it on the shelf. It's actually a surprisingly well-made tool. If we look at it, it's a lot of their newer stuff, the Quinn and whatnot, and even some of their older Pittsburgh Pro stuff was pretty good, but this one is really nice. Just the machining on this tool is pretty good. It's actually really surprising. This general purpose of this review is just the tool alone is easily worth the 15 bucks. Just because it is the same unit, and Harbor Freight's just charging a lot less overhead. This entire thing is all steel. I don't believe there's any plastic whatsoever on it. And if it wasn't for a design choice, they have this large rivet in the middle. It is a solid steel rivet with some really nice large heads on it, or a large head on one side, and on the other side they didn't display it, but they have this steel ring so that when you use the tool it acts as a stop for the handle. The reason I'm annoyed by that is because this entire tool could be fully rebuilt into every last piece if it weren't for this metal rivet making it more difficult. These cross pins in the handles are actually held in by E-clips. The front nose piece is actually threaded. This center piece here, this cross pin, the pole pin, and the nose piece are all machined steel. They're all billet steel, and that's one of the things that really surprises me. The consistency and just the build quality of the tool is really is pretty nice. Even though it has sheet metal handles, and I wish they were a little bit more rounded instead of being quite this square. Overall, really surprising, and it's actually a gem. Probably one of the best, really is, versus sockets or anything else. This tool just has a bunch of different parts in it that are all machined. It's all pretty intelligently held together. This wide pin in the middle is so that when you hold the tool, it goes against your hand. It protrudes out both sides, although they could have made it just protrude out one side and it would still be an ambidextrous tool. But it does protrude both sides, and so you can use it to hold the little plastic rivet that these come with. These are POM rivets. I don't know how, they have a complicated chemical name that's hard to describe, but there is a common material, or the most common material is Delrin. Delrin often comes as white versus this black, and it is actually a very heavy duty, high quality plastic that has a surprisingly good hardness. One thing I will mention about these POM rivets is that this set comes with 40 rivets. You get 4 different sizes, 10 a piece, and they're not too bad. You get like long ones. Basically, you get small diameter, long and short, and large diameter, long and short. Basically 5 and 6.5 millimeter, and so I think that's pretty handy. One of the notes is that this tool and the rivets that they come with are Taiwanese, and the rivets that this tool comes with are pretty nice and hold up pretty well. It's actually pretty distinctive seeing the reviews where people are happy with the rivets that come with the tool. Although Harbor Freight they have this little section where it's a bunch of, replacement parts and supplies like E-clips. They have a bin. The little ones that come in the plastic, they sell little plastic sets of these, and those are Chinese, and they seem to break all the time. The one deal with plastic products is particularly if they're actually load-bearing, something like these plastic rivets, is you really want to get high-quality ones. And Harbor Freight's selling a great tool, and the ones that come with it are pretty decent, but I wouldn't recommend getting the replacement kits of these plastic rivets. I'd recommend ordering some premium ones, maybe from Mac Tools online, or maybe Napa. These are a little different from a metal rivet. A metal rivet looks the same, but when it's pulling the actual rivet stem, it's crushing the metal, and then the metal, being metal, stays in that crushed shape, and that expansion is what makes it attach materials to each other. On the plastic rivets, they do have to do something a little bit different, and you can just see it in there. It looks like there's some kind of texturing. That's a corrugation. There's actually this is two independent molded pieces of plastic, and in the end here, they have some corrugation, so when it pulls the rivet and expands, those little teeth will kind of ratchet and will tend to keep this stuck or stay in position. The whole point of these plastic rivets is that because they are plastic, so they won't damage any metal components. They're easy to remove if you do want to use them on metal, but be able to easily, just cut them off or pull them out without a need for drilling. And for some reason, people talk for metal rivets, you do need to drill, but these plastic ones are actually pretty easy to remove, and I'll show you, without having to use a drill. These things can be used, put eyelets of tarps together. You can put a washer on the back just to give it extra holding power when you're riveting, but you do need access to the back side of something. Rivets, the point of rivets is that you can put them into a blind hole and then attach it, say plastic liners and underbody panels and wheel wells and even fenders. Apparently on lots of Jeeps, these tools seems to be pretty popular with Jeep owners and the plastic fenders that they damage off-roading, and I can see why. So plastic rivets are really pretty cool. We'll do a little demonstration. As far as the rivet tool, really highly recommend it. It actually came nicely oiled. I mean, the machining, it's just, you can see the machine marks, but it feels just totally smooth on this stem. So that stem is milled steel. This main body here is milled steel, that cross tube. And the way the cross tube has a hole drilled through it, and then this stem is pushed through that hole, so that's how this is all captured together. And the sheet metal is pretty thick on the handles. Now, if I retract it, I should be able to remove the nose piece here. It only comes with one nose piece and is giant. It's like 3/16, and that's something to also know, is these little rivets won't fit in even the largest setting of standard rivet guns. You need actually the large size riveters or hydraulic riveter. So even though they're plastic, they have to have really large stems, and we can see this metal cap, even the machining on it's really good. The knurling is, if we can get this to focus, there we go. The knurling is actually excellent. It's nearly perfect. It's has a lot of bite. You really know good knurling because of that biting. So this has a special shape. That little curved shape is actually a key on how these tools work. When the handle is retracted, the little jaws hit that little bevel and it pushes them apart, and then allows you to push the rivet in. As you draw it back, the little jaws retreat from this little area here, whatever you call that nipple, and then it allows little dog teeth that are inside those jaws to grip this rivet and then pull it through. It appears that the jaws are the same as what would be used for driving aluminum rivets, but this handle design, you would never really get enough force. Although this tool seems like it's really built well enough to where it could pull metal rivets, but you'd have to use a pair of C-clamp to clamp those handles down because you just don't have that much leverage. And it is a neat design. It's a high stem design, although it can have issues in certain tight spaces because of this kind of straight design where a lot of rivet guns are L designs. And so you will have to be aware of that. The other issue is it's about 3/4 inches in diameter, so there'll be certain areas where the rivet may be recessed, and all you have to do is get some kind of little ring or washer like this just to help stand it off. Anyway, this thing does work. If I can't help to drop this thing here, we just have something. This would just be simulated, a couple of plastic panels. And yes, you can remove these, but you just put it in, and it actually works pretty well. And you just squeeze, and it just crimps those little legs out. And if it doesn't fully pop it, you just retreat the handles and let it drop back down again. And you do it one more time. And you actually have to use quite a bit. I had to use 2 hands, and that was quite a bit of force. The stem pops out, and so this can be an issue where you have this happen where it just sticks out like so. And so we might just take something like a pair of side cutters here and just clip that off, and then that's how you'd end up getting it flush. So even in cold temperatures, these tend to work out pretty well, but that is only for the really premium grade ones, which use really high quality. You know, there's POM plastic, but there's, you know, this is Delrin, and there's Delrin that has other recycled components, maybe doesn't have as good of a base stock, and all that kind of stuff really makes a big difference in the type of performance. Where you may have one set of rivets like the cheap Chinese supply packs that just seem to break all the time, and something that looks almost the same or does look the same, another black plastic rivet from, say, Mac or what comes in the Taiwanese set, holding up very well. And you can see the one kind of criticism is because of these three legs. It's just a little pinch points on those three legs. And I was looking around some forums, and people have had issues where, you know, if it is a plastic panel, where these legs will want to kind of fold up and then the rivet can make its way out. So anytime you can get a washer on the back, that will help out greatly. And I'll show you a quick trick to get these out once they're in. I don't know how this review turned out to be so long, but this is a cool tool. I just haven't believed I haven't got this thing earlier. Many projects I could have just used plastic rivets on. You can even use them on clothes. So we'll say this is a more relatively secure panel, secure enough. I'm using a socket to hold it. You many times wouldn't be able to put a socket on the back of this, but it will be held well enough to where you can find something like a nail or a screw or something. It's just about the right size to hold that. It's a little fidgety, but you just want to drive that center pin back. Let's see if I got it far enough. I did. And I forgot to mention, probably one of the other issues is every once in a while, the pin itself will want to slide back, and then of course the rivet gets loose. Once the pin is driven back, there's nothing holding the tension. And then at that point, you can just use a screwdriver. You just use like a flathead screwdriver just to get under there and just slowly work the thing out. Once you have a little bit of a gap, it's much easier to actually get under there with needle nose pliers. And then we can just yank this rivet right back out. And so that is a distinct advantage of these, is the way that they can be installed and easily uninstalled. And the process for uninstalling any is all involving the head of the plastic rivet. So even in delicate situations, you can remove these and not have to worry about damaging any bodywork. Anyway, there's actually only just a couple or 3 reviews of this tool on YouTube. One of them was the Mac version. And I was actually kind of surprised given the number of reviews that were on not just Harbor Freight's website, but on a few other websites where there's a few other brands where this tool is sold under. And it really is pretty nice, so I just wanted to do a little bit more comprehensive and detailed review. Anyway, I really appreciate everybody watching and subscribing, and if you haven't subscribed, please do. Until next time, Catus Maximus out.